Hello everyone. My name is Jason Stryker. Today I really want to share with you all how we help to build and maintain a thriving internal Kubernetes community at Capital One by, Mike's being a little weird, by honestly just driving inspiration from CNCF and open source principles. But to understand that, we need to start talking about silos. So silos, they have a bad connotation, but they aren't inherently bad things. They're actually a pretty natural phenomenon that emerges with the structures and incentives that you find in large corporations. However, you'll find that large domain problems need to cross boundaries and cross silos. They involve multiple interactions between subcomponents and interactions between teams, much like how Kubernetes itself is structured with operators and controllers that all work together. So silos solve natural scaling problems. They enable practical scaling for software as well as human systems. A team is able to focus on a specific localized problem without becoming overwhelmed by the complexities of the larger system. So like many things in life, the goal is to find a balance. We want to keep the autonomy and focus that silos provide, but mitigate some of the downsides with a tactical application of community. This helps us reduce waste and align our incentives towards systemic optimization rather than local processes or what's best for a single team. And you don't need to hold a huge cultural revamp to be able to do this. You can find a reoccurring problem, bring people together, and solve it. When you deliver value, that's going to earn trust. And that trust allows you to tackle even bigger challenges. That momentum is going to build upon itself. And you don't have to invent a model from scratch either. The open source world has been solving these kinds of problems for decades, allowing disparate connected communities to collaborate and build software together. The CNCF is a great example of how to structure these kinds of communities. Projects like Kubernetes use a clear framework for collaboration between projects while allowing individual autonomy for the developers. So internally at Capital One, we had an existing construct called a community of practice, basically a forum that you could get together to discuss domain problems. We decided to build upon that and integrate the CNCF's model of special interest groups within that organization, each with a clear charter organized around one of these domain problems. And we kept that process lightweight to encourage action instead of bureaucracy. So, with these SIGs, we identified some of the larger bodies of work that drive value and strategic alignment. We applied these concepts that are demonstrated by open source projects to help meet those ends. You know, when you're at a large organization, it's not too dissimilar from working with people from a completely different company. They have different incentives and roadmaps, and you need to align with them, and open source is great at solving these kinds of problems. But you need to remember this is a voluntary exercise, much like open source is voluntary. In this type of system, recognition is going to be your fuel. We make a conscious effort to celebrate wins, from a merged PR to documentation updates to a great presentation. Elevating the work of others is going to encourage people, and it's going to feed our egos, and it's going to inspire others to get involved. So, to make this community work sustainable, it can't be seen as extra work or side of desk work. You need to actively tie these community contributions to performance management. You know, provide reports to the managers, help them see the business value that this community contribution provides. That's going to legitimize the time and effort that engineers are going to spend on your community. So if you want to implement something similar yourself, I want to share some things that worked well and some things we know that won't. One thing that worked well is treating this as a bottom-up effort. Make sure you're organizing around the right things that are actually going to help members of your community. If this effort is seen as an extension of one team's will, it's going to trigger natural competitive instincts, and it's going to reinforce those silos. You want to treat this as a genuine effort and share the glory among everyone with recognition and recognize that, hey, this is going to end up being less work for everyone involved if we do this together. Remember to federate your leadership. Encourage associates from different functions to lead these SIGs, not just the Kubernetes team. This is going to ensure a wide variety of perspectives and establish buy-in across these various functions. And as you do this, you need to respect people's time and acknowledge, again, this is a volunteer effort. You're not their manager, you're not their tech lead. You need to be organized, and you need to sell people on the value of their contributions. You also need to be willing to shut down efforts that are not providing value. When you're doing this, take the time to inform and report to their management. Help them get credit for the work that they're doing here, and show them how this is going to benefit the larger organization. And most importantly, well, not most importantly yet, let's talk about what doesn't work. Aggressive mandates. Don't treat this like it's a standard delivery team, and don't force people to adopt that shared solution. Again, you need to sell people on the value here. You can't force them to do it or use your solution. Win their hearts and minds and their contributions in code. But most importantly, don't forget to celebrate the wins. tie their work to tangible artifacts and put those front and center for everyone. Remember that the community and open source is built on trust. So that's the end of my talk. I just want to summarize that you can bring these things that we love about open source and CNCF into your large organizations driven by profit motive. Just remember to embrace and complement your silos and tell a good story along the way. All right, please reach out if you have any questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jason.